Well, welcome back to the Hot Seat. I'm delighted today to be speaking to Jamey Dwyer at ZEDRA here in St Helier. Welcome, Jamey.
Thank you, David. Nice to meet you.
So we're going to chat about some of the latest trends from succession and estate planning. But for PCD members who've not met you before, it'd be interesting to hear a little bit more about your background and role here at ZEDRA.
So I head up the Active Wealth team in Jersey. And I've been with the business for over 20 years now, from the original Barclays days through the ZEDRA buyout. So Active Wealth for us encompasses private client. There's a slightly different spin on it in that it includes and focuses a lot on entrepreneurs rather than your traditional private wealth clients.
So rather than having silos across sort of trust, corporate and funds, which is often, your clients will typically need a variety of solutions, is it? So to look at it more holistically, but with the right type of client that is actively still creating wealth rather than focused purely on preservation. How do you just see the distinction?
Yeah, so we have distinct areas within the business. We do fund administration and we do corporate services as well, and global expansion. But the way we try and work is that people may need things that touch in all different areas. And we try and accommodate that as best we can across those different functional lines.
And to support their entrepreneurial vision, I guess, if they're looking at growth and expansion, it's a different tone, isn't it, to like a private wealth firm, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. So some clients might evolve from one area of the business to another, or across multiple sectors. And we're in a good place to try and make sure that we can help them through that journey.
And those entrepreneurial clients busily creating active wealth and being active in business, succession planning might not be their first thought. They might be in a younger demographic, busily, creating wealth in their business. Why do you think it's important for people to think about holistic planning as soon as they really start having that success?
Well, I think no one ever knows what's around the corner, and everyone is always very, very focused on their career, what they're doing, the things they're passionate about. But some of the things that are even more important than that are things like family. What's going to happen if something happens to the client? Are their family going to be well looked after? Are the assets structured in the right way, in that their family are well advised and protected from some of the things that life can throw up? So it's important to start looking at it early. But we do get clients who haven't even started thinking about it when they're in the 50s, 60s and beyond. Yeah,
because as soon as clients have dependents, there's a question there, isn't there, about what they should do, or there might be other life events that trigger the need for a review, a death of a family member or a marriage or something like that, isn't it? There's many junctures through which people might look at their plans and update what they're doing.
Yeah, totally, and they can change frequently as well. People always hope for the best, but the best doesn't always happen. And I think it's important to plan for that in a way that means that you've got that peace of mind that something's been set up properly. And if the worst happens, there are professional people in place who can help.
And you've got a lot of expertise in-house, but I imagine you also work closely with third-party advisors in the legal tax world or on the banking financial side. I mean, what are the kind of intermediaries you might combine with on a client looking at estate planning?
Well, we're very much an open business. We lean in heavily on advisors, tax advisors, lawyers, accountants, investment managers, bankers. We use all of those different areas of the financial services industry to make sure that our clients have everything they need. We need people to help us with the assets that we hold in trust, and we look to make sure we have professionals in place to do that.
Is London still a sort of central hub for that? Is that a sort of a leading centre, or where do you find, particularly in the tax and legal expertise, that you find, good positive connections with professionals?
London, I think, is always going to be a huge centre for financial services, particularly with what we do. But we do work with a lot of firms outside of London, regional UK, in Europe, the US, Far East. Wherever the advisors are, we work with them. But yeah, London's a huge centre for us.
And you do have a very global focus as a business. I mean, you're based here in Jersey, but I imagine you interact with colleagues in different offices and also have clients in different regions. I mean, how do you see your role within Active Wealth as part of the group?
Well, we've got offices, as you said, across the world, from San Francisco through to Hong Kong. We do make an effort to work together, and so we do liaise with each other and support each other on particular client matters. Sometimes something might come up in a jurisdiction outside of Jersey. We've got officers who can help, and we introduce people so that people have the right connections and can take things forward in the way that suits their needs.
And how did you find the pandemic changed clients' attitudes to estate planning and plans they have in place?
I think during the first stage of the pandemic, there was a lot of introspection, and people were thinking more about their plans, catching up on administration. They couldn't travel. A lot of clients travel an awful lot, and they couldn't do that as much. So there was a lot of administrative work going on, and we did see a lot of interest in changing structures, updating structures, creating new structures where needed. People did think a lot about what would happen to them if this disease caught them out.
And how's it changed the way you operate as a business? I mean, many businesses now are far more integrated on video calls, and that's just now a sort of fairly instant reflex, isn't it? Travel patterns, I feel have definitely shifted speaking to people. I mean, how have you seen it implemented now that we're coming out the other side? What kind of things are being retained here within the business?
I think video meetings is a really useful tool. Sometimes you can't travel to the place where someone would like to see you. Sometimes it's at very short notice and you can't get there. So video meetings has a definite part to play in how we communicate with people. It's not the same as in person. That's always going to be the first choice. But it's certainly better than emails or telephones.
And for colleagues, keeping looped into other offices, isn't it? You know, video is so much better than the days you talk into the conference call box. You know, there's that bit of extra connection, isn't there, for communication?
It's putting a face to things.
Yeah.
It does make a difference.
And I mean, one thing coming out of the pandemic that I saw a lot of the guys talking about was, you know, the great wealth transfer, patriarchs becoming aware of mortality and thinking, oh, do I have the right plans in place for succession in a family business, or assets, real estate that's held, or other assets, and make sure that's properly administered. I mean, a lot is talked about in the sector about next gen clients. What's your read on it from here in your role?
Yeah, I think we look to get engaged with the family, with the wealth creators as early as we can. We want to have a good understanding of what it is they're trying to achieve, what are their concerns, what are the assets in question, holistically rather than specifically, because sometimes there's things that you can do to help wider assets that maybe hadn't been thought about within the context of succession. So it's all about getting involved with the family, with the advisors, get a good understanding for the aims and the intentions, the concerns, the worries, and hopefully put something in place that gives peace of mind and settles things down.
And do you think those younger clients have different priorities to the former generation? I mean, there's a lot of characterizations going on, and you can't take a whole generation of people and say they think about the world in a certain way. But are there things that you're noticing? You know, commonly people talk about increased interest in ESG or impact, or do you see that filtering through, or is that something that people are just talking about more than taking action on?
We do see it filtered through, but I don't think it's as prevalent as maybe it's talked about. But there is definitely an interest in making sure that the ESG side of things is dealt with, particularly around the environment, sustainability, things like that. But I don't think it's limited to the younger people either. I think there's an awful lot of interest from older generations who are maybe thinking about their kids, their grandkids, and what sort of world we're going to be in soon.
And with the active wealth lens, as it were, for the younger clients, do you see younger clients of established wealthy families coming up with their own new venture ideas and needing, you know, some corporate structuring or funds or different support because they're actually interested in their own venture? You know, within the family, they've inherited wealth, have been part of a wealthy family, but they have their own ideas and energy. Do you see that also coming through?
Yeah, we do. So we do set up new structures for further generations, and it's lovely when we can do that because we have a good understanding of the family background, and hopefully we're close enough to the family to be able to understand what it is they need and help them put it into place. So we do see that. A lot of the time, trusts are created to try and support particular ventures as much as support the family.
Yeah.
So it could be that a trust's there to make sure that a business startup has some capital, which otherwise they might not be able to get too easily. Because
the entrepreneurial clients that you talk to about trusts, I mean, is there an instant familiarity with the concept? And I mean, obviously, if you've been in business, you might be more familiar with a corporate entity, but never actually looked in detail at how a trust or a discretionary trust might operate. I mean, what kind of conversations do you have with a businessman that's not schooled in this area, as it were? You know,
I think a lot of the new clients who come to us have been well advised already. By their lawyers, accountants, or whatever. So they've got a good sense of what it is. I think where you need to spend more time in education is more about future generations. So people who are maybe approaching majority need to understand what this structure is that they're connected to. How do they interact with it? So there's a lot of work that we do around younger people within wealthy families to try and help and support them.
Yeah, so they're not frustrated because they understand the rules of the road and how the structure's going to operate.
Yeah.
And I mean, what would you say that the key benefits then for the family in general of having this trust structure when you lay out why they should go ahead and wealth they've created through blood, sweat and tears of building a business at that moment of ceding control to an entity sat here in Jersey when they might be halfway around the world? I mean, how do you go about explaining that?
Well, I think the main thing is really peace of mind. If something's set up and the client understands the importance of it, the benefit to them and their family, it should help them to be comfortable with the fact that there's a professional in Jersey supported by professionals elsewhere who are looking after their interests and acting in the best interest of them and their family. So I see trust work effectively as helping the peace of mind of the people who created it and the families that they're doing it for.
And is real estate an important asset class within many of the structures? I mean, in the UK, tax rules have changed, so residential real estate now is less commonly owned through structures, but often is there underlying sort of real estate in the structures that you hold, as well as, you know, the private companies or the portfolios?
Yeah, there is. More so commercial than residential these days.
Yeah.
But there's definitely an interest in commercial real estate in the UK and further afield. And the structures can help with the ownership of that. And
luxury assets as well, like the art or the toys and things like that, can be administered centrally. Is that something you see?
It is. Yeah. Toys are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do see structures that hold artwork. We have to make sure they're secure and insured properly and things like that. But we do hold artwork, yeah.
And I know the team's very active in the Middle East and parts of Africa as well. But I mean, what do you see as exciting sort of growth markets for the business, where when you're getting together and looking at the world, seeing activity across the group?
Well, I think the Middle East has always been, or for many years now, has been a very important area for trust companies, for financial services firms. We do an awful lot of work in Europe as well. We've got presence in the US, so there's a lot of interest in the US, domestically and internationally, and Asia as well. There's an awful lot of potential in different parts of the world to tap into and to support and to help, and we're very keen to do that. We travel to a lot of different jurisdictions, and face-to-face is the best way to do business, and yeah, we invest in those markets.
Fantastic. Well, look, Jamey, great to talk to you today, and we look forward to sharing this interview.
Thank you very much, David.